So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a bit about your background and who you are.
So thanks, Matt, for having me here this evening. Thank you, everyone, for turning up. I know traffic was horrendous. It took me a while to get here, so appreciate you guys making your way to MPC. We had a pre-chat before this, and I kind of explained to Matt that it's not often easy for Asians to talk about themselves too much. So I wouldn't be very long, but I'll give you the gist of it. So background, I was very fortunate to join Anderson Consulting back in 1999. So Anderson Consulting, I think some of you may know, subsequently became Accenture. So I was there for 11 years. Great place to start a career. Like most people back then, I guess, we weren't sure what we wanted to do, but we were pretty sure what we didn't want to do. So Anderson Consulting or Accenture allowed me to do that, to explore the technology space, the non-technology space, the different industries, the telcos, the FSI, oil and gas, and so forth. So it was a great learning experience there. You learn to be very, very structured. So I was very fortunate to have worked for Accenture for almost 11 plus years, actually. And then I very quickly realized that working for 11 years at a very hard pace. So anyone knows Accenture? Okay, good. Thank you. So it was a very painful place to be absolutely honest. Those of you who knows Accenture, we produce Androids, and hours were very, very long. It came to a point where even weekends we had to apply for leave. So it came to that juncture, which is becomes brutally painful, and especially if you have young kids at a point in time, which I did, it was really hard. So it was a bit of a soul-searching part of life. You kind of want to figure out what was it that's meaningful to you. Do you want to keep working? And really, working is great. You make a good living, you're fine. But what is it really that you want to achieve? So I was then very lucky to meet dear old Tony Fernandes. So then we had a good conversation. And before I knew it, he offered me a job to be CIO of AirAsia, AirAsia Berhad. I took on the role instantly. I obviously wasn't, I would say being an Accenture, being on the consulting side, you kind of sell and sell, but to be on the other end of the fence and becoming a CIO, it's very different. But I took the opportunity, became CIO, and then I was there for 3 years. So that allowed me to kind of pick up pieces of my life that was missing and kind of figure out what was important and what was not important. And AirAsia, and you guys know AirAsia, we all know AirAsia, is a fantastic place. And it is really what it is. It allows you to do a lot of different things every single time you go to work. So very quickly, I started to rediscover life in AirAsia and start to discover a bit more about yourself, or about myself at least. Pushing boundaries was something that was very important, and you start to realize that you were burnt out, you were tired, you worked very long hours, you want to discover what life was, but after a while, there's more to it. You want to start to see what's important for yourself, and especially for a career. You're still fairly young, you need to work for 11, 12 years. Really, in the grand scheme of things, that's not very long. So you want to push on. And AirAsia was very good. It offered me the opportunity to learn, offered me to start to believe that I could be an entrepreneur. And I think that's something very important in a place like Accenture, in AirAsia, sorry. So did that. 3 years was a decent amount of time. I unlearned a lot of things in Accenture. In Accenture, they will teach you to PowerPoint things in 20 different ways to deliver a few messages. In AirAsia, it's the other way around. You've got to be very succinct with your messages. If you can't explain something in 3 minutes, then it's not worth knowing because it's just too difficult. It's boring probably. So you learn that very, very quickly as well, and you pick up on your pace and how you deliver messages. And Tony, some of you may have attended some of his speak. You will know that he's absolute master, right? So you learn a lot just watching him. So AirAsia was great. Then came another opportunity. Now that I've recharged slightly, my ex-boss from Accenture days, Dato Larry Gunn. I think Dato Larry Gunn was a board member of AmBank. He came calling because he himself, at the age of 60, decided to be a group CEO of Formis Resources Berhad, which he subsequently rebranded to Almosti Berhad. And I joined the group as the CTO. And again, great times. Was back in the Accenture fold, so to speak, because there was a lot of ex-Accenture people in Almosti Berhad. Long story short, they ended up acquiring this company called Microlink Solutions Berhad. Microlink Solutions Berhad is listed on the second board, I think listed in 2007, so it's quite an old company. So I joined Almosti as the CTO for a year and a half and a bit, and then the opportunity came up to become Group CEO of Microlink, and I grabbed it. And so a year and a half on, here I am, speaking to you guys. So, sorry, it's a bit of a long story, but that explains roughly where I came from, more or less, yeah.
But you mentioned that the CEO role, you'd come from being a CIO, being a CTO, suddenly being a GCEO. You've admitted to me that's something that you'd never ever done before. What made you so sure, okay, I'm ready to run a company, to be the top dog?
How many CEOs are there here? Were you all ever certain when you will be a CEO? Well, see, that's the answer. Opportunity came. It's a good opportunity. You had good advisors, you have good people working for you at the bottom, at the top. You take the opportunity, you grab it. So I think if at all, if fortune favors the brave, you want to try and punch above your weight and take on new roles when you can.
Were there ever any doubts then? Were you ever kind of thinking, okay, this is a lot of pressure to be that high up on the totem pole?
I mean, until today, there's still some lingering doubt, certainly. So I think you go through that on a daily basis. But more often than not, the confidence and the trust that people have in you comes through. So you've got to let that shine through and take over that fear, if you like, or the insecurities, and do your best at what you can do. Yeah.
Okay, so in the time that you have been a GCEO now, what kind of lessons have you learned throughout that time? How have you grown even in that kind of short period?
There's the politically correct answer, and then there's the non-politically correct answer.
We'll have both.
We'll have both. I've always admired those CEOs with those visionaries, those people who share their thoughts and then go off have nice dinners, jet-setting lifestyle, plays golf. I thought that would be it. That would be the CEO kind of lifestyle that I would slowly progress into. I very quickly realized that, partially, but the few things remains true. You still need to go down to the field. You still need to deliver outcome. And the only way you can do that is really through your people. So some things don't change. People management never changes. You need to know your people, you need to motivate your people, and they must trust you, right? And that's just the biggest part of delivering outcome. Without that part sorted out, you're not going to be able to deliver outcome. So I think I quickly realized that, CEO, great title, it's really just a title. You still need to do everything else to deliver the outcome. So that's one part that I've learned. The other bit that was, I think, new to me was the whole networking bit. You certainly start to mix with very, very different people. And every time when you're in a session, dinner, lunches, or whatever the case may be, you're often sized up. So you kind of need to be your best self every single time, almost. So that networking is important. And at the same time, you start to realize that you've got to now blend into the ecosystem. Because there is an ecosystem to blend into. There is, I'm not saying there's a CEO club, so to speak, but there is an ecosystem that you will be part of, that you will know that you can help influence or not influence certain outcomes, and you will be in that group. And you need to find your space in that group and almost belong in it. So I think those were the few things I've learned. Some things don't change. Some things change dramatically, and you've now got to be on your toes all the time because you're no longer representing Yong. You're now every single time out there you're representing your company and the people. So it changes a lot.
So you joined Microlink when it was already kind of an established operation, and you came into it. You've not kind of started something from scratch, though. Is that the kind of a next step for you down the road? Have you got that kind of that entrepreneurship mindset, that desire to do that?
Technically, when I joined Microlink, Microlink, when it was first listed, its bread and butter was just core banking system. Microlink has its own core banking system, its own proprietary IP. It was about 110 people or so back in the day. When I came on board, we became 300 over people, or slightly above 300. What happened was Larry Gunn, Dato' Larry Gunn, when he was still Group CEO, he decided to inject all the IT companies into Microlink. So Microlink is no longer just a core banking solution provider. It also has a distribution business. So Microlink today are distributors for Oracle, IBM, Lenovo, and Hitachi Data Systems. So we're distributors. There's normally only one or two distributors for these big products. So we do hardware and software specifically for these principles. Yeah. So that threw in a big span into the business. So it's not just a core banking solution provider. It's now a distributor. And then there are other IT companies that came on board. So we had a new SI arm, a standard system integrator type of solution set. So we inherited a lot of people. It became 300 plus. And day one was fun. So when I took on the role, the old CEO pat me on the back and said, it's a lot of new people. He would have done more, but he knew he was retiring. So he wanted me to have a chance to mix it up a bit and start off the company the way I wanted to. So it's been a journey so far. Getting everyone to come together into one room was step one, really. Putting 300 people or so into one room physically was itself a challenge. But since then, we have had a couple of team building events. The recent one was in Port Dickson. That was great. I think most of you here would understand that communication in any team is important, let alone 300 people. So this is an entire company that have never met each other. I know there's some small silos, but coming together and clearly trying to figure out what they're going to do moving forward was a bit of a challenge. So I think step one was really just getting everyone together in the same place. That was last year.
How do you do that then? How do you get 300 people marching to the beat of the same drum?
Yeah. So there comes the CEO cap, I suppose. So don't get me wrong. So CEOs, the whole visionary part is actually absolutely important, and I like that part of the business. Execution, if not, is probably more important. But without the vision, execution will not happen. So very quickly, I realized with our management team and the board members that we had, good board members that I have, that we need to have a clear strategy. And again, some lessons learned from the past. The strategy that you have to put in place cannot be this 15-page document or a 100-page document, right? It's got to be something that if I go into a room, explain that 3 things or 5 things, whatever the case may be, people will leave that room remembering those 3 important things. So we had to come up with something very, very simple at the start. And the real thing that we really got everyone to understand was how are we all going to go to market together as a company. You have your core banking solution, you have your hardware and software distribution, you have your SI in the middle, and you're trying to do new stuff as well. So how do we all go to market together as Microlink, the group, and not as individual subsidiary as per before? So I think really providing that vision at the start was the start of it all. Yeah. So
your time working, you mentioned Tony Fernandes. How was that then? What kind of lessons have you picked up from who he was then to now? Now that you're running your own show, what kind of Tony lessons have you brought into the way you are now?
Anyone been to Tony's talk before? Anyone knows Tony specifically? Okay, so you would so Tony is a celebrity. He's a celebrity CEO. Yeah, everywhere he goes, people will be following him because there's things to tell him, things to inform him, and he has to make decisions on certain things. So it's very, very fast, very quick, because he's got very limited amount of time available to you, for you. What I've learned with Tony is, as I mentioned earlier, you cannot PowerPoint something in 20 different ways and be ready to give him a 50-minute pitch from your pitch book. It does not work. You've got to be able to deliver your message to him in less than 3 minutes. if you're able to get his attention for 3 minutes fully without him looking at a BlackBerry, that's an accomplishment. So you learn very, very quickly, say the right things. Don't use too many words in explaining something simple. Get to the point to get his attention, and if there's any question he's going to ask you, you jolly well be ready to answer those questions, because if he asks you a question, which is great, you've piqued his interest, but if you're unable to answer that, you're done. So very similar to what we do today. I don't need our guys to PowerPoint things in 20 different ways. I don't need a new business model and approach to our marketing event or sales event that we have in many different slides. I don't. I just want to make sure that our guys are very clear about why we're doing certain things. What does it involve? What are we going to get out of it? And really what it's going to mean for everyone moving forward. So I think if the main takeaway I have with Tony is really to be absolutely clear.
Yeah, and one of the things that Tony's very well known for is his work-life balance. He's very known for kind of being a bit of a man about town, for still keeping up, even though he's the busiest man in the world, he still kind of keeps up his life. You do the same. You've recently taken up Ironman running, which for a CEO, who we often hear that CEOs don't have a lot of time for themselves, and to be training to do Ironman races and super marathons, all while being a husband and father as well. I mean, that must be an incredible, burden on your time. Like, when do you sleep? I guess is my question.
Next to your wife, firstly.
Yeah.
Well, very importantly, you need to have a very supportive family and a very understanding wife. She's right in the front, so I hope I've earned some brownie points there. But anyone knows what an Ironman event is? Okay, so it's a swim, bike, run. It's a triathlon, but specifically for Ironman, the distances are longer. So I was lucky to participate in one on Sunday at Phuket. It was lovely. Just got it done, so a little bit tired. But I think the point with lifestyle balance is it's a pursuit. You pursue that balance, if you like, but there's no such thing. You get a balance. Today work a little bit, exercise a little bit, spend some time with family, but that just lasts a week or two. Then something takes over. I think what's probably more important, at least that's how I live by so far, is commitment. If you're going to commit to work, and there's RFPs that's coming up, board meeting that's coming up, or talks like this that's coming up, you commit and you make sure that it's in your calendar and you're ready for it. And if there's an Ironman event that you need to train for 6 weeks beforehand or whatever the case may be, you commit. If there's children's events coming up, holidays, whatever, you commit. And you've got to make that work for you. You've got to, it's up to you to make, there's no balance. You just have to commit and make it happen. And really, if anything I've learned over time, and this is true not just dear old Tony, right? It's true a lot of leaders that I've had the chance to work with and speak to. A lot of them have told me that you need to do more with less. And I think that's something that I've really trying to do. Not always successful, but I've been working towards that, doing more with less. Yeah. So I suppose that's how I find my balance, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and to wrap it up then, if you were to have one key lesson, one thing that if people remember nothing else from this session, the one thing that you want them to remember, you've got our attention for 3 minutes, what's your one final lesson that you want everybody to take away with them?
I would say always punch above your weight. Always try to do more than what you think you can do. I'm not asking you to be a fool, but you've got to try and seize the opportunity. I've been very fortunate. Opportunities came and I took it. So I think if I was to tell my younger self, what is it? It's what you've done right is you've tried to punch above your weight. You never stayed as a CIO or a CTO. You tried to be a CEO. So that allows you to do something different. Had you be contented with what you have, then I think chances are you wouldn't be doing something different, something out of this world. So I would say, if anything, punch above your weight at all times, if you can.
So aim high and always go for the kind of, whatever challenge presents itself, always throw yourself into it.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay,
Yes.
well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
okay.
you.
Cheers. Thanks very much.